How we doing, everybody? UFC Thoughts here, and today I'm going to be going over my picks and breakdown for every fight on UFC Vegas 90, Allen vs. Curtis 2 on April 6th, 2024. Let's get right into it with the first fight of 12. We start with Melissa Mullins, formerly known as Melissa Dixon, versus Nora Cornell in the Curtain Jerker. This, of course, has some severe controversy as both ladies missed weight. There were 4 really bad weight misses on this card, and 2 of them were in this fucking fight. And when I'm looking at this fight, I want to lean more towards Nora Cornell. I look at both of their skill sets. Melissa Mullins on the feet leaves really a lot to be desired. She doesn't do well defensively against leg kicks and body kicks. She catches leg kicks, not leg kicks, but body kicks kind of well. She did it a couple times in the Alexieva fight. She leaves a lot of openings on the feet, man. The only threat I really feel that Melissa possesses in this fight is really her ground game, and that makes me want to lean towards her. But Nora Cornell, even though she was taken down, she was doing damage off her back, and she was being able to defend positions. Even though Jocelyn Edwards was able to get to good positions, Nora eventually was able to reverse these positions and eventually get off some good ground and pound on her own. I think this fight really depends on if the ground game's able to work. And I think Nora Cornell, even then, I think she's a bit stronger than Melissa Mullins. She looks stronger. Melissa Mullins, not to make fun, also has a lazy eye. Makes me want to pick against her, alright? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, that sounds really mean. But it's the truth. I want to go with Nora Cornell by split decision, 29-28. Melissa Mullins left a lot to be desired in her debut, on the feet at least. On the ground, she was a fucking ace. And even on the feet, she had moments, but Alexieva is really wild and keeps her hands super low, so she was kind of a sitting duck at times. And even then, a lesser striker in Alexieva was able to rock her shit. Whenever Melissa Mullins goes against dangerous strikers, like on the regional scene, she went against Daria Zalesnikova, who debuted, I think, 2 weeks ago, and she was getting her shit kicked in for a little bit. But then, of course, she came back and won in the first round, using her ground game. I'll go with Nora Cornell, though. Fuck it. We move to Dylan Butka versus Cesar Almeida. Now, this fight's super interesting to me. The reason why a lot of people know who Cesar Almeida is and why he's getting a lot of hype is a long time ago, when him and Alex Pereira were still doing kickboxing very early into their kickboxing careers. I think both were undefeated, like 4-0, 5-0. Cesar beat Alex Pereira, and they actually fought 3 times. Cesar went 1-2 against him because, well, Alex Pereira is one of the most decorated kickboxers of all time, but he still beat him the one time. So a lot of people are like, he holds the win over Alex Pereira, but it's like super ancient. But I think I'm still leaning towards Cesar Almeida. A lot of people are bringing up a lot of wrestling credentials that Dylan Butka has. He's got a lot of medals. He wrestled at Notre Dame, I believe. But in that fight on the Contender Series against, I can't even remember the dude. He's one of the South African guys who I think trains with the DDP. He's a pretty big dude. In that fight, I think Dylan Butka's striking looked very elementary, and his takedowns weren't even really, he kind of just smudged his opponent into the ground and couldn't really do anything. And Cesar Almeida, in his fight against a bigger guy with better takedown entries, like this guy was literally sprinting at Cesar Almeida, getting double legs. He was sprawling and defending well in the clinch. My big problem with Cesar, though, in this, he did get his back taken a couple of times, and Dylan Butka is kind of decent in back take positions. But Dylan on the feet, he gets clipped with leg kicks. He is kind of just slower on the feet. Cesar Almeida is he has that sort of Alex Pereira kickboxing style where he throws a lot of right jab, right straights to the body, left hook, throws a lot of cheeky leg kicks. He'll bring it up sometimes. I think Dylan Butka is very young in his career. He's probably going to waste a lot of energy early in this fight. And if I'm being honest, Cesar Almeida's ground and pound is way worse, or better is what I meant, than Dylan Budka's. Cesar Almeida was swanging at Fernando in their fight on the Contender Series. He had a 10-8 round on 2 judges' scorecards off of ground-based damage. Listen, Cesar Almeida is also able to reverse positions. Off of one of the back takes, he literally got out of the body triangle and got into full guard. He's not that bad on the ground, but I can see where his gas tank comes into an issue, because in the 3rd round, he kind of was just like a fish out of water a little bit. But I don't think Dylan Budka's all that good, if I'm being honest. I'm not falling for another trap of, like, Connor Matthews. I'm not having it. Cesar Almeida, I'll go 1st round KO. Fuck it. I'll go with Cesar Almeida. He is older, which kind of sucks, but what are you going to do? We move to Dan Argueta versus Jean Matsumoto, or Matsumoto, my bad. This one's pretty simple. I'm picking Jean Matsumoto, probably by decision, 30-27. I think this is probably one of the easier fights on the card to pick, if I'm being honest. Dan Argueta has some of the worst striking at bantamweight we've seen in a while. His striking is very piss poor. His wrestling, he is very explosive, and he does have good submissions on the ground. But even then, he can get people down, but they can bounce right back up. Like in the Miles Johns fight, Miles Johns was able to get up pretty easily. And Jean Matsumoto fought Casey Tanner on the Contender Series, and he got taken out twice. He got, like, right back up. Popped right back up in, like, 20 seconds. He's got super strong leg kicks, and just super strong legs in general. His leg kicks are going to kill Dan Argueta. A lot of people are talking about, like, the strong legs just being able to defend takedowns. The thing is, Dan Argueta, his striking is so bad, he's slipping and sliding around the octagon so much that he, like, falls over a shit ton. Jean Matsumoto is going to murder his lead leg, and it's going to be even worse in this fight. Dan Argueta is going to be slipping and fumbling everywhere. And Jean Matsumoto, his striking is super clean in the pocket, too. Dan Argueta throws a lot of arm punches. I just think this is a bad matchup. I know Jean, he's very young, 24 years old. And the thing is, in this fight, it says he's shorter. It says he has a shorter reach, or a bit of a longer reach. Dan Argueta, the only reason he is somewhat successful is because of his physical prowess, and that he's genuinely has, like, the size advantage out of a lot of guys. Not height-wise, but just, like, size, like, width, and just, like, muscle. Jean Matsumoto is bigger than Dan Argueta. This is an easy pick. Okay, Jean Matsumoto, I'll say either late 3rd round TKO or unanimous decision 30-27, lock it in. Also forgot to add, Dan Argueta's cardio is fucking god-awful, and Jean Matsumoto has 5-round experience in title fights, so I think it's pretty obvious. We move to Pedro Falcao versus Victor Hugo. I'm going with Victor Hugo. If I'm going to be honest, I'm kind of going for a shot in the dark here. I was able to get some tape on Victor Hugo. His striking is very wild and rudimentary. He throws a lot of spinny shit for no reason, a lot of jumping switch kicks. His kicks in general, like body kicks and leg kicks, are actually kind of good. He, like, hardly throws punches, but on the ground, he is a fucking jiu-jitsu ace. But for Pedro Falcao, I can only go off of, like, Tapology and, like, fight footage from, like, 9 to 5 years ago. I have, like, I couldn't find his most recent fight against Leonardo Santos after, like, a 3-year layoff. I couldn't find that. But he's also taking this on 3 days' notice, and I don't think he had a fight lined up, like, in the future, so I think he's literally taking this on 3 days' notice. Which, good for him, by the way. Good for you, Pedro, for being able to fucking show up on 3 days, unlike people with full fucking fight camps. Holy fucking shit, dude. Fucking full respect. I think this one's gonna be fun, though, because Pedro Falcao is also kind of very good in jiu-jitsu, and Victor Hugo kind of does leave openings. Like, submissive, like, defensively, like, submission-wise, Victor Hugo does leave himself kind of open. We saw that in the Contender Series. He almost got knee-barred. The guy on the bottom, I forget his name, he was like 16-1 when they fought. That guy was pretty good. And he just escaped every submission, but it was still kind of weird how he was able to find himself in those positions. But I think Victor Hugo is just kind of going to muscle him 3 days notice, Pedro's probably going to gas out. Victor Hugo's just going to try and push a pace on him, kind of just tire him out and beat him that way. But I think Victor Hugo might be able to find a late submission. I'll go with round 3 submission for Victor Hugo. I'll say rear naked choke. Fuck it. We move to Norma Dumont versus Germaine de Randamie. Germaine de Randamie returns, and she's in the Apex on the prelims. Woo! Yeah, woo! 4-year absence. 39 years old, Germaine de Randamie, guys. Let's go. I'm going to go with Norma Dumont by split decision, 29-28. I think this fight's going to be a smudge fest a little bit. I think Germaine's going to be able to keep boxing at range for a little bit. I think Norma's going to smudge her against the cage, maybe land some big shots of her own. I don't imagine Germaine's quicker than what she was when she was actually fighting. She hasn't fought in a while. I was not able to watch interviews, so I don't know if it was like injuries holding her back or whatever. But I think Norma, she's more active. She's been fighting 5 rounds a couple of times here and there. She had the 5 round against Aspen Ladd. I still can't believe that was a main event. She's fighting up-and-coming contenders like Chelsea Chandler. She's having good fights with these ladies who are also pretty big in stature. Like, Chelsea Chandler's actually pretty big. Of course, she's not as good as Germaine de Randamie because Chelsea Chandler fucking sucks on the feet. But Norma Dumont was able to wrestle with her, and she's pretty heavy. So I think she's going to be able to kind of toss around Germaine de Randamie a little bit. She has a good gas tank. Norma hits kind of hard. I just think it's going to be age. I think Germaine's too old to come back after such a long absence. I know she's coming off a good win over Juliana Pena, but that was fucking ancient, dude. She hasn't fought in so long. I don't imagine she's quicker. I imagine she's slower. Her cardio's probably worse. She probably just is not as good as she was. And she wasn't even really that good in the first place. So, yeah, I said it. All right, Norma Dumont. Actually, I'll go unanimous 29-28. I think she'll win this fight unanimously. We move to Walter Walker versus Lucas Brzeski. Of course, I'm probably going to go with Walter Walker. A lot of people, of course, are hopping on the hype train of Walter Walker because he's Johnny Walker's younger brother. He's fucking massive, and he's a wrestler, and he's a fucking troglodyte. He's literally a cave person. Look at him. And apparently he fights out of Russia. He's been fighting in Russia for a while. If I'm being honest, watching tape study on Walter, I'm not super impressed with him. He's having close fights with shorter dudes who they say are tall, but there's no way they're tall because they're short as shit compared to him. I know he's 6'6", but these guys are dead ass 5'10". And he's still getting caught by these guys, but I just don't think Lucas Brzeski's all that good. He just isn't. I think that Walter, he's also super strong, and on takedown attempts, he is very strong, and that's something Lucas Brzeski really struggles with. This isn't going to be like a Martin Buday situation where he's going to smother him against the fence with his fucking belly fat. He's going to try and double leg and fucking smash him into the ground like a better version of what Carl Williams will do. Because Carl Williams doesn't wait until you hit him to go for takedowns. He shoots them. Lucas Brzeski, of course, I feel is going to have a stand-up advantage. I think Lucas is actually pretty decent, but he is kind of chinny as well. He's coming off the Waldo Cortez Acosta knockout, where he literally almost died. That's a joke, by the way. He just kind of landed on the top of his head. He got hit in the back of the head and landed on the top of his head. It was very weird. But I think that the wrestling is going to be a big problem for Lucas. He hasn't been very impressive in that region. He kind of has been smudged. Martin Buday kind of did it, but he obviously lost that fight. Walter, I don't think it's going to be the showing performance a lot of people expect. I think he's just going to win a very smudgy decision, 30-27. Because if I'm being honest, on the feet, outside of his right side leg kick, a jab, a couple knees in the clinch, he's very elementary. He's very slow, very plotty. He doesn't throw anything at all. Most of his fights are him just slightly bouncing and walking an inch forward. He's super plotty. But I don't think Lucas Brzeski's all that good. So I don't think he's going to be able to take the O away from Walter Walker. I think that the wrestling is just too much of a disadvantage and Walter's going to expose it. This is probably the last time we'll see Lucas Brzezinski, so bye, buddy. We move to the featured prelim, Court McGee versus Alex Morono. I'm going Alex Morono in this fight. I think this is probably the easiest fight of the year so far to predict. Court McGee, veteran, old head. You know, he obviously had the very touching moment on The Ultimate Fighter where he battled drug addiction and eventually ended up winning after losing earlier in the season, I believe. They gave him a chance because someone pulled out and he ended up fucking winning. I think everyone loves Court McGee. He's a pretty solid guy, but you cannot ignore the fact that he kind of sucks now. He's very slow, very chinny. He's getting dropped by jabs by Matt Brown. Matt Brown hits very hard, but he's getting dropped by... He's very textbook, bread and butter, but the bread and butter is, moldy and, aged. So it's not even bread and butter. It's fucking just, withered cheese. Alex Morono, I don't think he's all that good, but he's definitely way better than Court McGee. He's significantly better than fucking Court McGee. Let's keep it a buck. So I think Alex Morono is going to easily walk through Court McGee, no questions asked. I think his bouncing style and his ones and twos, leg kicks, I think he's going to be able to avoid the clinch and smudge attack of Court McGee. I don't think Alex Morono, he might be able to finish Court McGee, actually. I'll go round 2 TKO Alex Morono. I think he has just enough power to do it, because Alex Morono was able to put away Cowboy, so I think he's going to probably be able to put away Court McGee, just with the way his chin is. So I'll go Alex Morono, second round TKO. We move to the start of the main card, arguably the best fight in the entire card, Trevor Peek versus Charlie Campbell, one of my own. I think I'm going to go with Charlie in this fight. This fight is a little weird for me to pick on, because Trevor Peek did look massively improved in his last time out against Muhammad Yaha. Was that his name? I know it was Muhammad. He showed an improved grappling sense, mostly probably due to the loss to Shepe Mariscal, where he did get wrestle-fucked. Well, not wrestle-fucked, but he got kind of thrown around a little bit. I just think Charlie Campbell is so much cleaner on the feet than Trevor. Trevor was limiting down on hammer fists. He was trying to keep it straight, but he is still very, not really technical, but he's still so fun. I don't think this fight has any way of being boring. Charlie hits very fucking hard, and a lot of people are going to use the Duncan fight against him, where he got knocked out, but he dropped Duncan 3 times prior to the knockout law. He just kind of left himself open. In the Reyes fight that he just had, it was Dominic Reyes' brother. He fucking sucks. He's also old. He made quick work of that guy. Very quick work. Beat his ass. Very reserved on the feet. He sensed when he started to break, he was like, oh yeah, I can get this fucking guy out of here. So I think Trevor leaves a lot of openings on the feet. I don't think he's going to be able to take down Charlie Campbell. Charlie Campbell's pretty strong. He's also significantly bigger than Trevor Peek. But I would not mind seeing a Trevor Peek knockout. So I'm going to pick Charlie Campbell, one of our own. But I am going to slightly be rooting for Trevor Peek behind the scenes, because I really love seeing him win, because he's just so fucking fun, dude. But I also don't mind Charlie Campbell. He's very fun as well. Yeah, I think this fight's going to be a very, not one-sided. I think Trevor Peek's able to push a pace and land some very powerful bombs. But I think Charlie Campbell's, his striking is just so much more slick and technical. I think he's going to catch a lot of 1-2s on Trevor Peek. Trevor Peek's head is so tough, though. But then again, Shepe Mariscal was able to kind of rock him a couple of times, so I think Charlie Campbell might be able to put him away later on, probably in the 3rd round, I'd say. So I'll go 3rd round TKO Charlie Campbell. Lock it in. We move to Ignacio Bahamondes versus Christos Giagos. I'm going Ignacio Bahamondes. Christos Giagos is an older veteran dude. He's shown potential. He hits very hard. That's the only thing that Christos Giagos really presents, in a sense. He might also try and smudge Ignacio, but I think Ignacio in this fight is going to show a more reformed version of himself. Ignacio also has submissions in his belt. He submitted Rong Zhu, who's slowly making a comeback on the regional scene and on the road to UFC series. He beat the shit out of that guy, and Ignacio fucked that dude up. So he submitted him. Ignacio is just so much longer, like leg-wise, like leg reach and just reach in general. I think Ignacio is also just cleaner on the feet. Christos Giagos, the only reason I would pick him is because he also was able to get inside on like a Daniel Zellhuber and rock the fuck out of him, which is why I picked Francisco Prado against him. But I don't think we've ever really seen Ignacio get like hurt in his career. Ignacio's pretty technically sound. He kind of can get like out strength in the clinch, but I don't think Christos Giagos has the cardio for that. He also doesn't have the skill for that. Ignacio's going to be peppering him up with teeps in the body, leg kicks, head kicks, just straight shots down the middle. Whatever will set this old fuck down. Anything will set him down at this point. I think his last win in his UFC career so far was, fucking, what's the dude's name? The guy that Drew Dober fought prior to Renato Moicano. Fucking, what's his name? Ricky Glenn. He had a draw with Grant Dawson as well. I forgot his name for a little bit. Yeah, he knocked him out, which is like, cool dude. Who hasn't? Apparently Grant Dawson. Yeah, but Ignacio's gonna fuck this old head up pretty bad. We move to Morgan Charity versus Chepe Mariscal. This fight, I know I've said it a couple times, is very interesting. Chepe Mariscal and Morgan Chariri, both very highly touted prospects. Chepe Mariscal has a, foreground of fraud checking these UFC newcomers like Trevor Peake, Jack Jenkins, and now he's fighting Morgan Chariri. Chepe's a dog. He is a dog. Hate him or not, I kind of want to see him lose because he was a dickhead to Jack Jenkins, but that's besides the point. He does have a good track record of being a dog in these fights, just making it a dirty fight. And against a Morgan Chariri, that's kind of what you need to do, because Morgan is very well at range with body kicks. His body kicks are fucking brutal, dude. His striking's just very clean in general. He's had a couple great fights in the regional scene at Cage Warriors. He's fought Paul Hughes, who should be in the UFC. He's fought a lot of great guys on the regional scene. He just has so much experience at such a young age, and Chepe's a little older. He's a dog. I personally like and favor Morgan Chariri in this fight, because Morgan also has a solid gas tank. I'm not saying that Chepe doesn't. I feel that Morgan would be able to secrete a pace that Chepe will put on him. Morgan Chariri has fought 5 rounds before, I believe. I think so. I think the Paul Hughes fight was a title fight. He also was a champion in Cage Warriors. Chepe is a dog. He's a fucking menace to society, but I think Morgan Chariri is going to be able to calm the fight down. And I know that's going to be very hard against Chepe, but I think he will be able to do that. And I think he'll be able to slow him down with leg kicks, body kicks, straight shots. Chepe's going to be reaching a lot in this fight, and I think Morgan's going to be able to move out of the way. And he's just going to kind of like poke and prod at him. Also, Morgan, for some reason, has a lot of personal beef with Chepe at the face-offs. He was like, I'm going to fuck you up. And Chepe was like, yeah, keep talking there, brother. And I think Morgan's just going to come in with a fire in his bean and try and put Chepe out. But I don't think he will. I think he'll probably be 30-27 decision unanimous. Why'd I say it like that? Who cares? This fucking card is weird. So Morgan Chariri, 30-27. Lock it in. We move to Alexander Hernandez versus Damon Jackson. I'm going with Alexander Hernandez solely because he missed weight. That kind of sounds wrong to say this, but hear me out. Damon Jackson looked like fucking death on the scales. He always has, but this time he looked really bad, even with an improved hairline. By the way, yeah, he went to fucking Turkey for a while. Holy shit. Look at the fucking hairline on Damon now. Anyways, so Alexander Hernandez misses weight. He cuts a little bit more down to 147.5. But in a fight like this, strength and, like, hydration is going to be a very high factor in this fight. And if Alexander Hernandez didn't have to cut that extra bit of weight, which he cut a little bit of it, but he didn't cut all of it, he's going to be at an advantage. And in a fight where Damon Jackson, his only real way of winning is being animalistic and being able to get in the clinch and try and slow down Alexander Hernandez. Alexander, who's going to be significantly stronger than him in the clinch, he's going to suffer. And Damon Jackson doesn't have a good chin. And Alexander Hernandez, when he goes against guys who kind of have shafty chins, he does pretty well. Beneil Dariush, 1 minute. I hate to see it. But I think that Damon is going to get another highlight reel KO of him hitting the floor added to another person's highlight reel. Also, these two guys don't like each other. So, yeah, that's pretty homosexual. Make weight, bud. Fucking Christ. If you're going to go fight at featherweight, fucking make weight at least, you dickhead. The only thing that kind of scares me in this fight is Alexander Hernandez's gas tank. That's kind of been the big issue in his entire career. But he didn't look too bad against Jim Miller. He was kind of able to ring that back. Against Bill Algeo, of course, he kind of got smoked in that fight. But Damon Jackson isn't a Bill Algeo. He also isn't a Jim Miller. Damon Jackson does have good qualities to him, but overall, he's kind of shit. He's got fucking skid marks on his back. I think Damon Jackson's just going to get slept in this fight. He leaves his chin wide open a lot, and that's, especially to straight shots, that's kind of Alexander Hernandez's bread and butter. He's going to put this fucking new hairline guy away. That's not Damon Jackson. His fucking hairline's too. He looks confused standing there. We move to the main event. Brendan Allen versus Chris Curtis 2. Obviously a very weird stylistic matchup. Chris Curtis takes it on short notice. I'm going to go with Brendan Allen probably by mid-round, third or fourth maybe, submission. Probably rear naked choke, knowing Brendan Allen. He has like fucking 13 of those on his record. Holy shit. I honestly just think this fight is going to show that Brendan Allen has improved tenfold since he last fought Chris Curtis. He was like 23 or 24 when they fought. And a lot of people forget that Brendan Allen is a very young competitor in the UFC. So Chris Curtis was kind of in his prime when he fought Brendan Allen, 32, possibly maybe 33, depending on when his birthday is. I don't know. But Chris Curtis, he's been getting older. He's had a lot of wars with Kelvin Gastelum, Nasruddin Imavov for how long that fight went, Marc-Andre Barrio. And Chris Curtis does get agitated a lot, and I think this is a fight where he can get very agitated. I think Brendan Allen's going to try and, throw his kicks from range, maybe use the jab. He has the reach disadvantage, actually. Holy shit. But he's got such a big size advantage over Chris Curtis that Chris has to aim up at him, you know what I'm saying? Chris, in this fight, on short notice, his cardio is going to be worse. I know Chris is known as the big takedown defense guy, but in the first fight, Brendan Allen, on the first takedown attempt he kind of just slammed him. And Brendan Allen's grappling has improved so much significantly. I mean, in his 6-fight win streak he's currently on, he has garnered, 5 wins by rear naked choke. He's beating the shit out of guys right now. And the one win in that he didn't finish the guy, he fought Jacob Malkoun, and he arguably lost that fight, by the way. But that's besides the point. It's Jacob Malkoun. He doesn't have the grappling. Chris Curtis doesn't have Jacob Malkoun grappling. I think that Chris Curtis, he's been touched by age a little bit. He's slower. He doesn't seem to have that pop to his shots that he had. Of course, Phil Hawes doesn't have a chin. And Brendan Allen, I think that he was coming directly off of maybe the Sean Strickland fight. Maybe he had like a fight or two in between. I think he did. I think he had Ponele Soriano and somebody else. Maybe Stolfus. I don't know. But he's getting better. Every single time we see Brendan Allen, he looks significantly better. And he's going into this fight preparing for a Marvin Vettori. So he's going to be grappling even more. Chris Curtis. Listen, I like Chris Curtis. I think he's a stellar athlete. But I just don't think he has what it takes in a 5-round fight against a guy like Brendan Allen, who is constantly improving and improving. I think Brendan Allen's going to be able to clinch up with Chris Curtis, kind of like Nasruddin Imavov did. I think he's going to be able to land shots on Chris Curtis. Chris Curtis, of course, may be able to find a knockout. I mean, it could be like just exactly like the first fight. This is kind of like, it depends on how you see how these guys have improved, because Chris Curtis, he always has the nuclear option. He does hit very hard, and Brendan Allen's chin is kind of suspect, especially if Chris Curtis is able to fight on the front foot. But here's the thing. Brendan Allen, the only time he suffers on the feet is if he's being pushed backward. Chris Curtis doesn't step forward. He hates when people run away from him. He literally walks to the center of the octagon and is like, "Much up," and is like, "Fight me in the center of the ring like a man." But that's like, dude, he's going to do that, and he's going to throw away the fight. Brendan Allen, 3rd round submission, rear naked choke. Lock it in. I'm UFC Thoughts. These have been my picks and breakdown for every fight on UFC Vegas 90. Allen vs. Curtis 2 on April 6th, 2024. My confident picks reside with Jean Matsumoto, Alex Morono, and Ignacio Bahamondes. My pre-card rating is a 5 out of 10. I'm just so drained from the Apex. Listen, this card has a lot of, like, possibly stellar fights, but there are a chance that most of them turn into smudge matches. The only things that I'm really looking forward to are seeing if Walter Walker is a real fighter who actually can compete with UFC heavyweights. Brendan Allen, how much has he improved since the first fight? Trevor Peek, Charlie Campbell should be fun. Morgan Sheriri and fucking Chepe Mariscal should be pretty solid. And all the other stuff, it can go on a whim. So, yeah, this card, we only have to go through one more week, ladies and gentlemen, until the big one, UFC 300, which, of course, I will upload picks and breakdown. I'm going to try and get another upload out on Fight Week for UFC 300. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'll try and get something out. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys after the fights. Peace.